At 30 million in liquid assets, your week doesn't look like most people think it does. There are no yachts on Monday, no private jet hopping on Tuesday, and no flashy luxury purchases all for show on social media on Wednesday. The ones who've built it from the ground up, the entrepreneurs, the high-earning executives, and the business owners, working and grinding for 10, 20, or even 30 years, their weeks are engineered completely differently. And today, I'm going to walk you through what a typical week might look like once you've built up $30 million in liquid assets from scratch. Not the flashy version, but the real version. What mornings feel like, how the conversations sound, and how the decisions are made when money is no longer the variable. And by the time we get to the middle of the week, I'm going to show you the one part of their routine which I truly believe separates the self-made ultra-wealthy who wake up and thrive versus those who quietly struggle. And it has nothing to do with their portfolio. So let me start with Monday, because Monday sets the tone for everything. At $30 million in liquid assets, conservatively managed at a 4% withdrawal rate, you're looking at about $1.2 million in income annually. And in many instances, this flexibility isn't just sustaining one's lifestyle. It's doing so in a manner that allows their portfolio to continue to grow over time. And that gap, the difference between what they have and what they need, isn't just a financial cushion. It's actually a psychological one as well. And that's part of the reason why Monday can feel so different than it did 5 to 10 years ago. So here's what Monday morning might look like at this level. First and foremost, there's no rush, by design. And there's no flooded inbox driving the first hour of your day. In fact, these mornings tend to be structured around longevity and clarity as opposed to productivity. 60 to 90 minutes of intentional movement, not your typical gym session. More along the lines of a program designed by a performance coach or a longevity expert who understands one's body at 55, 60, and 65. Functional strength, mobility, and cardiovascular capacity. Because you're not training for aesthetics, you're training for decades. Whether these folks want to be hiking at 85 or cognitively sharp at 95, they want the capacity to enjoy the freedom that they took so long to build. And after that, the morning is quiet. Maybe breakfast with a spouse, and then reading a book for 30 minutes or so, and not a business book. History, biographies, something that stimulates the mind without demanding output. And here's the key insight from Mondays that I want to make sure lands. These mornings are not unstructured. They're actually intentionally structured to revolve around what matters most to them. Because here's what I've seen happen without intentional design. It's actually a form of a trap that catches many people off guard at this level. Without structure, the days fill themselves, emails creep in, and requests multiply. Advisory roles, board seats, and other obligations you say yes to because it feels like it's the right thing to do. And suddenly, you find yourself 6 months in to what was supposed to be the freest chapter of life so far, and all of a sudden your calendar is more filled than it was when you were running a company. The ones that get Monday right, they protect it. They've made deliberate decisions around what deserves their morning and what does not. And that single shift, treating their time with the same intentionality that they did as their capital, can be a game changer. But the real shift isn't just about mornings. It's about what happens next. Because Monday afternoons reveal something about people at this level of wealth that I think others completely underestimate. Monday afternoon, in many cases, is when the single strategic touch point of the week takes place. One meeting, say 90 minutes or so, with their advisory team. Not a portfolio review, not a performance update, but a holistic review of their overall picture. Are the estate structures still serving the family's needs and goals? Has anything changed that they need to be aware about? Is their philanthropic strategy on track? And is their spending aligned with the life they want to live? And when the conversation is over, they don't think about it until the next scheduled review. That's not negligence. That's actually architecture by design. They've spent years building teams that run their financial life for them without their daily input. And that one shift, from managing wealth on a daily basis to reviewing it periodically, gives back what I would argue is worth more than any investment return. And that is your mental space. Now, Tuesday is the day in my experience that tells you whether a person at this level is actually striving or just simply going through the motions. And here's why. When you've built a liquid net worth of $30 million in assets, whether you built a business and sold it, or you were a high-earning executive for the last 3 decades, or you scaled something from nothing, your mindset is probably geared towards building. You were the person that solved problems. You were the person everybody called. You were the person that made things happen. And then one day, that chapter closes. The business sells, the career winds down, the operational intensity that filled your veins for decades just stops. And what I've seen over and over again The first 12 to 24 months after that transition tends to be one of the most disorienting times in one's life. Not because the money isn't there, because the money is there, but because that sense of purpose and that reason that you had to jump out of bed is not yet replaced. And I'll be honest, this is something that I think a lot of folks are very reluctant to talk about. Because from the outside, everything looks incredible. You just experienced a major milestone, you should be celebrating, and everyone's congratulating you. But internally, there's a real void growing. And for the folks that don't address it, that void can continue to escalate. So here's what I've seen the self-made ultra-wealthy do on Tuesdays. And I don't literally mean every Tuesday. This is just the pattern. They have found a way to deploy their expertise, their energy, and their experience to something not tied to their net worth. Whether it's mentoring young entrepreneurs or serving in an advisory role on a nonprofit board where their operational expertise really moves the needle. Or even advising a company in a space that they're passionate about. Not for compensation, but for engagement. This is more about building something new. Not because these folks need the income, but because they realize that their creative energy that built their wealth for them doesn't just go away when their bank account hits a certain number. And here's the mindset that sticks with me. Money gives you the option to stop, but stopping was never the goal. The goal was to choose what you do next. That distinction between being able to stop and wanting to stop is something that I think is very powerful at this level. And the way they spend their Tuesday afternoons is actually where I see their planning side and their lifestyle side come together. Tuesday afternoon might involve a conversation with their estate attorney. Not in a boardroom, but over lunch, in a casual and leisurely way. And that conversation isn't about documents, it's about values. Like the next generation, being prepared not only financially, but also emotionally for what's to come. Because at $30 million in liquid net worth, an estate plan is not just a document. It's a statement of values. And the families that treat it this way tend to navigate generational transitions far better than the ones who only look at things through a technical lens. Now, Wednesday is the day, honestly, that changed my perspective on what wealth at this level actually is. Because Wednesday tends to be about people. And the way that the self-made ultra-wealthy invest in their relationships is something that I think anyone at any level of wealth can learn from. Here's what I mean. Wednesday morning might include a round of golf, a tennis match, or a nice long hike. But here's the detail that matters. It's with the same people they've known for years, and in many cases, decades. Not new friends acquired at a higher level, and not a curated network of people with similar net worths. The college roommate, the neighbor from 20 years ago, or even the business partner from their first venture. And what I've noticed is some of the most happy people at this level never let money reorganize their relationships. They might pick up the check without making a thing of it, or even handle the cost of the trip quietly. But they maintain what I call shared context. The jokes, the tradition, and the history remains as it was before the wealth was created. Now here's where Wednesday afternoon gets interesting, and I've seen more and more families at this level implement it. A structured giving rhythm, not reactive philanthropy, where when somebody calls, they simply write a check, but an intentional structured practice, where they review one opportunity, one cause, or one request, and they strategically deploy capital to what matters most to them. In some instances, this might be a modest contribution, say $5,000 to $10,000 towards a local program. In others, it's significant, say a few $100,000 towards a scholarship fund, or a local initiative that matters deeply to them. And here's what this rhythm can do psychologically, which I've seen happen in real time. It can change the relationship that one has with wealth from something that you have to something that you use. The number stops sitting there as a number on a statement and starts feeling alive. It has a pulse because it's connected to real outcomes, real people, and real impact. And at $30 million in liquid assets, this shift can be profound because you already know you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle. So the real question is, what do you do with the surplus? And Wednesday evening, in many of these households, dinner with the family. It's not a structured event, it's the default. The kids and the grandkids come over, the chef handles the meal, and the time together is about presence. Not planning, not wealth, and not strategy. And I can tell you from years of having these conversations with people at this level, that when you ask them what the best part of their week was, they very rarely mention a material item. It's almost always like this. A table full of the people they love, in a home they built, on a weeknight. That's the version of $30 million that's not in a highlight reel, but it's also the version that really matters. Thursday and Friday are what I think most people probably dream about when they think $30 million in assets. But it can actually be simpler than you might expect. Here's something that happens at this level that's almost impossible to appreciate unless you actually experience it. I call it the spontaneity dividend. Thursday morning, a text comes in from a close friend. Hey, you want to come down to Charleston for the weekend? I found a great spot to eat at. Here's what doesn't happen. No looking at the calendar, no checking your budget, no wondering if you can afford to do this. The answer is just yes. And by Thursday afternoon, your assistant, who more than likely works for you part-time, maybe 20 to 25 hours a week, schedules the flight, handles the logistics, and everything is set. You didn't book anything, you didn't research anything, and you certainly didn't compare any options. You just said yes, and the infrastructure handled itself. So Friday, you're in Charleston, dinner with friends, walking the city Saturday morning, maybe a boat ride Saturday afternoon. And here's what I want to frame for you, because this is what ties the whole week together. What tends to allow all of this to work out seamlessly is having structured systems running flawlessly in the background. The household is managed, the properties are maintained, the investments are monitored, the staff knows what to do, and the assistant is anticipating your needs at all times. You can leave on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday without a single thing falling through the cracks. That's the real product of $30 million in liquid assets for the self-made. It's not the trip itself. It's the freedom to say yes and to take the trip without friction, without worry, and without any loose ends. Now let me bring the full week together, because this pattern is something that I think is incredibly important to understand, whether you're accumulating these assets at the current time or you're there already. If you look at the week as a whole, here is what you see. Monday is about health, clarity, and strategic oversight, optimizing one's body and protecting one's mind. Tuesday is about purpose and legacy. The expertise that built the wealth is now helping the world in a different way. Wednesday is about relationships and generosity. Old friendships are maintained, giving is structured and intentional, and family time is the anchor, not the afterthought. Thursday and Friday are about spontaneity and presence. The infrastructure handles the logistics. The only question is, do we want to? Never can we. And here's what ties it all together. The one thing that I said you'd probably notice in the middle of the week. Every day is designed, not scripted, designed. And that is the key. The self-made ultra-wealthy who thrive at this level treated life design with the same discipline and intentionality as they used when they were building their wealth. They asked themselves the hard questions. How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend my time with? What drains my time as opposed to what energizes me? And here's what I'll leave you with, because this is something I feel very strongly about. As powerful as all this money might be, it only answers one question. And that is, can I afford to live the life that I want to live? But ask yourself the harder question. What does that next chapter look like? And who do you actually want to become? And if you're wondering what this level of wealth actually unlocks and how the lifestyle can change once you get there, check out our next video here.